Alright, hello everybody, this is Ghost Hunter 385, and I am back with my second live stream, and I hope everyone's here to enjoy. So let's start things off in the cantina, shall we?
Hankering for some down-home cooking out there in the space lanes? Come on down to Bubba's Gas and Grub. We got Two for Tuesdays, featuring barbecue bugle wings. Also, free plasma charge with each fill-up. Bubba's Gas and Grub. Your space trucker home away from home.
Food, then, if they eat muta wings.
Damn,
like
brother.
Wings.
You look like you could use a drink.
I saw the last vision Zeratul put into the crystal. It was a look into the future. Final battle against the hybrid. Armageddon. Somehow.
Yeah, that would be a
Kerrigan's the key to
terrifying
preventing
thing
it.
to see.
Who knows how the wheel turns? Cycles upon cycles. This much I know. Those that see the future best take heed. It's both a gift and a curse.
But is it cast in stone?
If that's believed about...
Who knows?
You know, it's hard to say if
I've heard you
seers
say we
believe
are
that,
who we choose
but...
to be. If that be true.
But then again, you know,
the
it's
future
kind of
cannot
hard
be
to
fixed.
say, you know, how these things work. Armory. Let's see what Swan's got to say. But the thing about the future is that the truth is that you could say it's never been set in stone. I guess you could sit here and say that, folks.
I just got some bad news about what might happen to King Saber.
No use worrying about what might happen.
Think about that girl again.
You want me to help?
Well,
Let me know.
Swan, that girl kind of just didn't have his heart. He also blames himself. Ooh, the building upgrades. Sadly, I can't buy him at all. Let's see, laboratory real quick.
I don't suppose you could give me a sample of your brain tissue for study purposes.
Brain tissue study. Thanks, Doc. That's nice. But then again, who would be willing to allow memories zapped into their brain, I guess? The sample is trying to escape, but they get several new acids and nutrients over time. They'll crack the tank counter. Ooh, yeah, that's a bad idea. But then again, keeping it alive isn't a good idea either. But research is research. 10,000 credits for every sample that I deliver. Cool. 20,000 credits, and a Hive-Line emulator, which allows you to control Zerg units, or the Psi Disruptor, slows motion, and it's a constant effect. So if you were to build this, normally I take the Hive-Mind emulator, but this time I'll take the Psi Disruptor. Why do I normally take the Hive-Mind emulator? Because taking control of the right kind of Zerg is nice, and not to mention the fact the larger Zerg you take control of, and you can heal them with the medic, even though they recover health over time. It's actually really nice, but that's only when you're trying to capture things like the Brood Lord and the what are they called? Ultralisks? Yeah, the Ultralisk, off the top of my head. Catching, and also the energy doesn't regenerate really fast, so I'm gonna go with the Psi Disruptor this time. It'll work better in certain missions. Alright, let's go, and now to the bridge. Let's see what Matt's got to say.
Shaken, sir. What's wrong? Zeratul called it a vision of the future.
It was the end
It was the
times,
end times, man.
Armageddon.
Armageddon.
Although that's more of a
Protoss than we ever
human
knew
term,
existed.
Armageddon,
They're still
because it's supposed to be
working
the
to stop
end of the planet,
What about
not
Kerrigan? Wasn't
necessarily
she supposed to
the end
stop
of the
them?
whole
In this timeline,
universe,
she was
as it
dead.
were.
Killed by us. That's what
She
Zeratul's
has
been
to
trying to
live,
tell us
or
all
we're all
along.
doomed.
She has to live, or we're all doomed.
Yeah, but how does that gonna work when she's not even quote-unquote rational? Sarah Kerrigan doesn't even become rational
We still need to
until
access
the
the adjutant we
next,
retrieved from Tarsonis.
until the heart
Our
of
old
the
mercenary
swarm,
associate,
where she
Colonel
was
Orland, is an
purged
expert in Confederate code
of
decryption.
the
If our
influence of
intel's
the
right,
Zelnaga
he
and
should
the
still be
like.
based at the Mercave in a Dead Man's Port.
Dead Man's Port. It's risky just waiting.
Oh,
for
mercs are fun.
mercenaries
They're
around.
always fun, Matt.
Colonel
What are
Orland's
you
sure taking his
talking
time decrypting that
about?
adjutant for us.
Yeah, I'm getting a bad feeling about this.
What bad
Incoming
feeling?
transmission.
Uh-oh.
James,
Mira Horner,
Orland decrypted your
mercenary leader.
adjutant,
Oh,
but is
darn.
planning to sell it to
12
the Dominion.
death sentences in
Must have been
12
something
systems.
exciting in there.
Darn,
he
she
wants
has
me
a
to keep
record
you
on
off
this
his
one, doesn't
back
she,
until they
boys?
arrive.
That's nice, Mira. But why are you telling me all this?
Because I like you and Matthew better than him, of course.
Because she
Orland's
likes
offer,
them better.
and I will help you take
Yeah.
him out instead.
Yeah, she likes
He's
them
staying in
that
minerals,
much.
so I'll give you
Reminds
the same
me of
deal.
Al Bundy. He
Done.
loves the people
Always
who
a
come
pleasure.
into his shop to buy
Don't take
shoes.
too long.
He loves them
If
so
Orland comes up with the goods
much.
first, we'll have to side with him.
How much?
Oh, and
Yeah, Al
say
Bundy
hello
loves
to
his
Matthew
job
for
so
me.
much that all the fat
Ask him
women who
why he
come in,
never
it's like, oh my
calls.
lord. Hold on a second, folks.
It's gonna be hard to get minerals down there. We'll have to find salvage if we're gonna hire Mira before Orland does. You think she'll help Orland, sir?
She's a mercenary. She'll help whoever pays the most.
Alright, folks, let's get the show on the road. I got Marines, buildings, a mercenary depot, and the like.
All right, boys. We got a deal
Let's
with
see,
Mira
let's get
Han.
the reactor
Now let's get to work and get that
going.
adjutant back.
Bad news?
Let's see, let's get these guys over here, and let's get my automated refineries up and going. Can't really do much in this mission
Pirates have
because
been
there's
stripping down
just
ships here for years.
there's just not
It
a
should
lot
be
of
pretty easy to
resources
collect
here.
enough scrap to pay Mira off.
That's what's kind of sucks about this mission is that instead of, you know, oh, what's the word I'm looking for here? Instead of relying on the, what am I thinking of here? Instead of normally relying on harvesting here, folks, you have to rely more on the salvaging or the finding of all the extra stuff, like the Vespane here, and then there's that Orland's, and there's one of Colonel Orland's command centers right there, but I don't have the units to go after that just yet. I got 5 Marines, I need 3 here, and then we'll get 4 medic. No, it's 3 medics, 4 medics. Ooh,
What's going on?
that is nice, and it is a lot faster. I think from now on I'll stick with the improved efficiency of the mining of the Vespane gas for Terrans from now on. That seems really, really nice. And ready. But in any case, folks, we're going to start off today's live stream talking about climate change.
I left a little
Now, some people might sit here and say, what do you
I
mean
never got
climate
to give it
change?
to him. Last
Isn't
time
it
your voice was
fake?
here.
Well, to be more precise, climate change is no. I don't. I'm gonna sit here and say that climate change isn't real because I don't think that. But what I do think is fake are, well, not necessarily fake, but well, no, not fake's not the right word here. I don't think that climate change is fake. I think how it's portrayed is fake. To be more precise here. Now, some people might sit here and say, what do you mean it's fake? Well, think about, just let's extrapolate one of their points here for a minute, especially when it comes to what they say on the mainstream media about climate change. First thing they say is that if we don't reduce carbon emissions, it's going to destroy our planet. The planet's going to overheat itself and we're all going to die. And the just the massive shifts of weather patterns, and it's going to destroy the planet and everything. Yet, even though the weather systems have gotten worse over years, yes, they have gotten worse. People will sit there and say that's not true, but the thing that's actually really sad is that there's been a definite increase in the amount of worse weather happenings out there. It's terrible, it's sad, and it sucks. I mean, I can remember being a child, and they would talk about how Florida was getting hit with mostly tropical storms, and by the time I was in high school, they were talking about how Florida was being hit with a Class 3 hurricane. Then came, I don't want to put a reality, my bad. But they were talking about how they went from, what was it, tropical storm to category 3? Something along those lines. No.
Roger that.
I must have clicked the mini-map, my bad.
Additional supply depots required.
Supply depots.
Complete.
Well, the point here is to not necessarily
Been waiting on you.
make this my primary holdout. No, that's what happens when I get the contract price for Mira. That's my primary holdout. But I do need to produce enough troops and the like to hamper what Colonel Orlin is doing.
In the rear with the gear.
And to also make sure that I have enough resources coming in to build the forces to deal with Colonel Orlin. As pleasant as that sounds, it's what's necessary. And while my forces are out, that's what the spider mines are for. Cute little buggers, aren't they?
Big job.
There's not enough resources here for me to want to stay here. But it does have its uses. See, let's leave that here. We'll send out the Marines and the medics to go get things, and we'll leave the vultures to protect my base.
That's fine. Sure.
But in any case, I can remember things being way different when I was a child compared to nowadays. Now, some people might sit here and say that, well, let's just go from the side of those who are not necessarily denier. Well, they don't call them outright deniers. They call, the people who outright deny that climate change is real, they call them deniers. But people who are like, okay, we see the changes, but that doesn't always necessarily mean everything's going to be a certain way.
Sure.
And they're called skeptics. I'm not going to bother with the denier's point of view, because if the biosphere of this planet was ever truly static in any form or way, then we'd have a bigger problem than anyone could understand. And why would that be a bigger problem? The answer is fairly straightforward and simple.
Got it.
Enrolls.
Keep your shirt on, Sparky.
The best way to phrase that is that if the environment, second artifact, folks, was truly to stay static, that means all it would take is one solid, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Sure.
One solid kinetic punch, however you want to describe it, to change the environment, and it would be a pretty big disaster. Simply straightforward.
Yeah.
So I don't sit here and subscribe to the belief of what you see on the mainstream news that if we don't cut carbon emissions by 40-50%, darn it,
Dig it.
the world is going to end.
The road's calling. It's
Now, will I sit here and say
Born to be wild.
that to a degree they do have a point that too much carbon in the atmosphere, well, too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere could turn into a problem, but from there we're gonna talk about that later because the planet already has built-in solutions for that. What do you mean the planet has built-in solutions? Nature has a funny way of doing things, folks. It really does. Now, some people might sit here and say that's a big load of nothing, or I'm spewing nonsense. Think about this for a minute. Plastics made from petroleum production, like plastics, water bottles, you name it, whether it be the disposable kind or the reusable kind, quote unquote, come from the production of petroleum products. Some people are saying, yeah, that's why they're so bad for the planet. So what? Well, think about this for a minute. If this planet's biosphere was static and evolution has quote-unquote stopped, then how is it that it was either a fungi or it was either a fungus or a bacterium has developed the ability to eat plastics, to eat polymers of that sort? So by that rationale, there's no way in heck that our environment is static and evolution has stopped. Evolution may have slowed down, I'll buy that. But I don't sit here and buy for 1 second that our planet is static to the point to where it's going to end up destroying itself. I don't buy that for 1 second, folks.
Yeah, I'm gone.
Not at all.
Where does it hurt? It must be an emergency.
Great, I lost 2 vultures. Not 2. And then I can lay some more spider mines when these 2 are built. But be that as it may, folks, this is just your baseline example here of you have one group that says something, and then you have other people that say prove it, and they sit there and wave their proof, and everyone doesn't necessarily just sit there and say they're full of it. They just sit there and say, you haven't really proven your case. But we have a list of scientists who have signed their names to documents stating that this is true. Well, I'm going to quote, and Adam ruins everything here about research. And one of the things he pointed out in the research is, where does the funding come from, honey? Where does the money come from to fund research? A big majority of it, and there's the last Protoss artifact there, folks. A big majority of the money that comes for scientific research comes from the U.S. government's grant system. And where do most grants get their money? Oh, from the taxpayer. That's true, but it also comes from, as well, guess what? Super PACs. Those big organizations out there that you hear talked about on the news, who quote unquote donate money to presidential campaigns, senators' campaigns, and the like.
Base is under attack.
So because these super PACs donate to the government, not only donate government, donate to candidates, so special interest groups, darn it, can and will have great and significant impacts.
Got it.
I should have built perdition turrets. Get some use out of it before he kicks the bucket.
Big job,
Roger. But these people are the ones who, more than often than not, fund not the politics itself, but they fund the politicians. And just as an example here, if you have politicians who excuse me for a second, who have money where it's put in, and they get elected because of this money, then they have to go by whatever promises, blah, 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 that they made to their quote-unquote constituents.
Well, butter my biscuit.
So because they made promises to these constituents, who is their first priority? Or, well, there's that. Or if there are scientists, quote-unquote, working on, I don't know, studies about how the climate is affected by X, Y, and Z, and how you see use of, not necessarily lead, but certain types of high nitrogen fertilizers, if this were to leak in the water, in certain water systems, it would do nice things to people.
You gonna give me
or that's 6, 8, 2. It wouldn't do nice things to people. I mean, think about Flint, Michigan here for a minute. There wasn't necessarily an old chemical leak off the top of my head. It was something along those lines where contamination got in the water and people were affected. Heck, even as a military veteran, I never personally been to Camp Lejeune, but they're still pushing out those massive lawsuits because it was covered up by, I don't remember who it was. I don't even know who, but it was covered up by the base command that there was a ton of poisoning into the waters, into the drinking waters to on-base housing, and that how it's affected people. I even think it caused a sergeant major of the Marine Corps, it forced him to retire earlier than it wanted. I could be wrong here, but because of that contamination affecting his health, a former sergeant major of the Marine Corps had to retire for health reasons. Coming from, he was at Camp Lejeune when that water toxicity was happening.
Mineral field depleted.
So think about that for a minute, because for me, environmentalism isn't just reduction of CO2, it's also removing harmful chemicals and other harmful things from the environment that are not only harmful to the native wildlife, but it's also dangerous to human health too. Flint, Michigan, and the water contamination sources at Camp Lejeune are just another example of that, in my opinion.
Why not?
But that's just one side of my purview here.
Mineral field depleted.
Yeah, I'll be back.
You got it.
Let's go.
All right,
Mira. We both know you're ripping me off, but I'm gonna hire you anyway.
My forces are yours, Jim. I'm so glad I got to side with you and Matthew.
You mean your husband?
I'll show you
Yeah,
what happens to
her and Matt are married. Why do you think Jim was sitting there giving him flack? It's like, I always liked it hearing about a lover's reunion.
By the numbers, boys.
Say, didn't you get married the last time we were there? I told you, Jim. If I had known what the winner of that card game was, I never would have joined in. Yeah, he got himself a bride. Misogyny. Yeah, I can already hear that one. But in any case, folks, me being serious here, well, not necessarily being completely serious, but being realistic here.
10-4.
I do believe in climate change. I just don't subscribe to, if we don't reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the air, it's going to kill us all. I don't buy that for a second. How can you not believe it? Look at all the science. Yes, science shows us that large-scale amounts of carbon dioxide in the air creates the greenhouse effect. And the greenhouse effect causes heat to more or less stay within our atmosphere. Now, problem, yes. But is it that kind of issue that's going to that will take a long time to actually have a really major side effect? Well, considering that when I was a boy in the 90s, Florida wasn't dealing with as much bad weather as it does now with the hurricanes and the like, then you compare that to when I was a child. Now, I'm not saying hurricanes didn't happen when I was a child, because they did happen when I was a child. But here, folks, I do have to contend with
not enough minerals.
The issue that, according to not necessarily the logic here, but I'm not going to talk about logic, and there's no point in talking about logic here at all. While there is point of logic, just in this situation, from my observation, is that have things gotten worse in a way? Yes, it has. You can't say that. How have things gotten worse? Straightforward and simple. If, let's see, I'm 30 now. Yes, you could say I'm young. I'm flat 30. Anyone who can do the math can kind of guess my age.
Yep. Go ahead.
But
yeah, whatever.
When I was a child, Florida dealt with more tropical storms and lower powered hurricanes. They didn't deal with a lot of these more powerful hurricanes that they deal with nowadays. So from there, I make the observation that climate that. Sorry, folks, getting a little tongue-tied here, but more or less that darn it, not the quality here, folks. The things have changed.
I'm going.
And for me, who's been alive for so long, to deny that, and who's actually seen that, I think I would have to be a pretty big fool to not sit there and say, from my own observations, things have changed. Now, have they changed for the better? No. They have not changed for the better. But I also don't sit here and deny that other things happen.
By the numbers, boys.
That things haven't happened. The worsening of weather systems, the heating, the hotter the summers, the colder the winters. You know, this is kind of a problem for everybody to a degree.
Of course.
But on the flip side of that, if the biosphere of this planet is truly as static as some of these people say it is, then this begs the question. If it's static, then why isn't it more disastrous that things have changed? What do you mean things have changed? If weather systems have gotten worse, and I'm sitting here going on the limb and them saying that CO2 high emission levels of carbon dioxide are the problem, then why don't we reduce carbon dioxide? Well, because of oil and cars and use of petroleum and dirty coal-burning factories, you know, that makes it hard to do. Okay, quasi-fair point. But we have to ask a question. We have to ask one fundamental question. Where does our planet get heat from? Do we have the planet cracked open to where we're drawing from the thermal energy of the molten aspects of this of the molten core of this planet? Are we doing that?
Need some triage?
No. Okay, so then we have to ask this question.
Base
What is our heating source for the crust of this planet? Because it's not the core, or it's not the thermal core of this planet that does that.
Go ahead.
If it's not the thermal core of the planet, then what is causing the warmth? What gives our sun the... Excuse me. What gives our planet Earth the heat it needs for life to thrive? The light to thrive? The answer is the sun. Now, some people might sit here and say, what about the sun? The sun isn't the problem. Well, here's the fundamental problem with that argument. If you have if you have an ignition source that's caused by a fire here, well, this begs a question. If the fire, let's say there's a fire, and we need to know the source to see if there was an accelerant used, how fast it's being built, I like that, to see the source of the fire, and if there was an accelerant used. Well, this begs a question.
Upgrade complete.
If we have to have heat that is, quote-unquote, being released and was being trapped in the planet's sphere, heat has to come from energy. Energy does not come from nowhere. Energy is transitional. It has never come from nowhere.
Why not?
Both chemists and physicists agree on this. So energy has to come from somewhere. So because energy has to come from somewhere, this means that the energy that is used for our planet, that is basically one of the main life givers on this planet, if you will. How do you say, it's like, what do you mean the sun is our life giver? Oh, I could sit here and ramble it off and just break down the whole thing of photosynthesis here. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to sit here and say, life needs energy to function. Life needs energy to move. And you need energy to break chains apart. You need it to do a ton of different things. So because energy takes a ton of different things to use, make, fire, whatever you want to phrase there, you have to make one thing that's very apparent. We need massive amounts of energy sources just for life in general. And whether it comes from the energy that your body produces via the function of eating carbs, proteins, sugar, carbs, proteins, and fats, our planet needs it as well. And where does most of our energy come from? It comes from the sun. So because it comes from the sun, you have to ask one basic question. If energy comes from the sun, whatever the sun does in a year can affect whatever goes on our planet, right? So, seeing as that we have to sit there and say that it is a fundamental truth that if the sun does not provide the energy for plants and the like, or even for certain types of single-celled plants like algae as an example here, If memory serves, they are single-celled. I couldn't
Mineral
wrong
field
there.
depleted.
But we have to sit there and acknowledge this base fact. So, how does it work? Sunlight hits the planet, stuff happens. Basic assumption.
Looking forward to it.
So, because that happens like that, we also have to sit here.
Depleted.
Darn it. Great. Thanks, siege tanks.
Keep your shirt on, Sparky.
Wrecked most of what I had going on.
Sure. Can't wait.
But I digress back on the subject here. Life needs energy, and the most life on this planet gets its
By the
energy
numbers, boys.
from the sun. So because it gets it from the sun,
Coming through.
and also our heat for the planet comes from the sun, so doesn't that mean just by this basic dictation of logic, more siege tanks, doesn't that also mean that dependent upon where our the orbit of our planet, depending on how it moves, also dictates. Darn it! I'm gonna lose all my nuke. Time to move.
You got it. This better be good.
Sure they drop the nukes on you.
I feel ya.
But back on the subject here. If we fundamentally sit here and say that
Armed and ready.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, great. And I need 3 more marauders.
Is it critical?
You gonna give me orders?
The doctor is in.
Of course. Will do.
Damn it. Alright, I lost my train of thought, folks. Just give me a quick second. But in any case, folks, the basic idea here is that
Sounds serious.
we have to question how the sun affects our planet. And if we don't do that basic
By the numbers,
examination of how the sun affects our planet, whether it's on how the planet's orbit is around the sun or how the tilt of the Earth's axis, if we don't bear out these fundamental questions, then how can we ever have an actual accurate picture of what's going on? Now, some people might sit there and say that's a load of hogwash. Well, we'll take an example of this. I don't remember which physicist said this off the top of my head, but there was a physicist who was interviewed as not as a denier, but as a climate skeptic, and he brought up a good point, that the Earth, we move in the orbit around the sun, in our heliocentric orbit of the sun, that our planet exists in a Goldilocks zone. Now, what is the Goldilocks zone? It's the zone to where life is possible on a planet. So because it's possible on a planet, this also begs another question. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7. Oops.
Need some triage? Standing
So,
by.
have these on
I'll take care
standby
of it.
here.
Is it critical?
You here.
Not a problem.
And how many Marines do I
been waiting
have?
on you.
Mineral field depleted.
I need 6 Marines here. Come here, you. I need a barracks.
What's going on? Ah! You scared me. I'm in a world of hurt. Armed and ready.
But in any case, our planet exists in this Goldilocks zone. And because it exists in this Goldilocks zone, if our planet were to move in either end of the Goldilocks zone, we get extreme. If we go to the furthest end of the Goldilocks zone, away from the sun, we get cooler summers, colder winters. And if the reverse is true to the edge of the other end, towards the sun of the Goldilocks zone, then we hit on blazing hot summers and incredibly warm winters. And then dependent upon
In the rear with the...
where you are in the world, dependent upon
Gangway coming through.
then dependent on, excuse me,
By the numbers, boys.
let's see, 1, 2, 3, get one more minute.
You rang?
Then dependent on, where
Upgrade
you are in the
complete.
world, just as an example, in Alaska, during half the year, the sun never seems to go down. They have daylight 24/7, and that allows them to grow very large plants. I guess you could sit here and say, I've heard about it. I don't know if I believe it, but I've heard about it. And if it's true, it's just another example.
We could use some help here. Of course. 10-4. Roger that.
Can see that one coming. So let's move closer to my team, shall we?
Orders
Give
received.
them a taste of their own medicine. But I digress. These situations where they sit there and say carbon is the problem, carbon dioxide is the problem, I don't fully buy it. Now, do I buy that all that extra CO2 has had an effect? I'll buy that. But will I buy that CO2 is causing these huge, drastic weather changes? I don't buy that at all. I really don't. Some people I sit there and say that what makes you a skeptic. No. What made you sit here saying me disagreeing with what you're saying here makes me a skeptic. I don't deny that climate change is a problem, nor do I, and I do not deny that environmental pollutants that are very toxic to both the environment, the other animals, and human health are a problem. No, I absolutely believe that is a problem. I absolutely 100% believe that is a problem.
I'm on it.
What I don't fully believe, nor do I fully subscribe to, is that the amount of CO2 in the air is causing massive and drastic amounts of cyclical weather change. What I do believe is that if the Earth axis tilts, if I remember the physicist correctly, he said, and I quote, if the Earth's axis were to tilt in about, what? I think he said even a degree either way, depending on where the axis tilts, it drastically changes the weather on our planet, whether we want it to or not. And either way, that is not a good thing, regardless of what I believe. And I would be a fool
Mineral
to
field
not believe
depleted.
that there is some truth to this. Okay, folks?
By the numbers,
But now, back to the sun, that also means high energy molecules and the like will also have a
Upgrade
drastic
complete.
effect on our planet as well. But more or less, what I am saying here is that there's a lot that goes on our planet,
Mineral field depleted.
and expecting that only the emission of carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere is the sole issue is of an extremely large misnomer, in my opinion. Now, more people are more than free to disagree with me on this. I don't expect everybody to disagree with me. In fact, I expect people to tell me how wrong I am, because there's no way that I could ever actually be right.
My pleasure.
Now, people might sit there and say, oh, now you're just ragging on the haters, or people who disagree with you. I'm not hating on people who will disagree with me. What I'm saying here is there's no way I'm ever fully going to convince anybody and everybody of my purview here. But the thing that I do subscribe to here is that there is way more going on besides that carbon dioxide is the problem. And if carbon dioxide is being a much bigger problem than we would ever hope or think, we already have a solution for that. What do you mean? We already have a solution? Well, no, we have scientists working on a solution. No. Again, this planet evolved a fungi that eats plastic. Guess what eats carbon dioxide? Plants, trees, grass, flowers, plants that produce roots that produce edible vegetables, plants that produce edible fruits, apples, berries, strawberries, tomatoes, potatoes even. All this stuff produces food that we eat, but it also produces
all right, I surrender.
Oxygen. So let's extrapolate that point here. If we have plants that, through the process of photosynthesis, take water, sunlight, and the carbon dioxide, and they make their own food, and in turn some of those plants make food for animals like humans, such as us, 1, 2, and other animals as well, because there are animals that eat grass, like cows as an example here, or even, I think some deer eat grass and leaves as well. Guess what? That means our planet has a built-in system to recycle CO2.
Back in the lab and ready to go.
So, what is the truth of what we need to do here?
Well, old girl,
the truth is, all we need to do for this here, folks, is to just have more plants. And what plants are more responsible? Civilian prospector, interesting. But all we have to do to help lower our CO2 rates is not build machines that capture CO2 and lock it away in capsules and stuff. All we have to do is allow larger scale plants, well, not necessarily larger scale plants here, but we need to stop the illegal loggings in exotic forests like the Amazon. After we stop that, it looks like someone held the send button a bit too long. Octorus. Oh look, I will rule this sector, or I will see it burn to ashes all around me.
We can nail Minx to the wall with this.
Oh yes, hearts and minds, man. Hearts and minds. But I will get off my soapbox here in just a moment, folks. But before I continue on, I'm going to finish up this thought. Basically, what I'm saying here is that under most normal contexts, our planet has ways of dealing with CO2. We just need to let the planet how it deals with this. So whether we let large-scale algae that actually makes oxygen for the planet, not only in oceans and the like, and even in lakes, we need to let that algae flourish. Now, not let it flourish crazily, mind you, but still let it flourish. If we did that, I imagine we would see a giant reduction in carbon dioxide emissions in the atmosphere, instead of all this nonsense about, well, not necessarily nonsense, but about, driving less. I mean, if we wanted to be technical here, if these big people and governments wanted to reduce the use of CO2, charcoal, and the use of charcoal factories, guess what they have to do? All we have to do is switch to nuclear power. And I will cover that topic in another video. But let's move on to the next mission and to what's going on now. What's Dr. Hansen got to say?
I can't believe it. That recording proves it's all true. Mengsk, Tarsonis, all of it.
Yes, Arcturus was several things. The megalomaniac, check. Wannabe dictator who will rule, check. Check. He checks all the boxes as a tyrant. The backlash will be awful. The riots, the uprisings. But that's exactly what you want. Cheers to that, boys. Yeehaw! Let's have some fun with this. Let's have some fun with this government before it gets reformatted. Woohoo! Okay, I may be exceeding the boundaries of good science, but I'm not sure there's some sort, if not, at least sentience, at least. Well, that wouldn't surprise me, considering Protoss are bound by the will of the Kala. Or at least direction. I put a broken nanofabricator in the tank last night, and today it's fixed. And it's accomplished things that it shouldn't be. If I reverse engineer fabricator, makes automatic repair cool. Or instant production of AI weapon possible or limitless. Cool. But in any case, folks, that's just, one example. And I actually prefer the science vessel here. The Raven has some nice stuff. It drops auto turret, drops drones, and deploy missiles. But I actually prefer the science vessel. It works as harassment, but it also does a really nice job in getting rid of other things too. And as a detector, also I like the fact that it can heal my mechanical units. Let's go see what Swan has to say.
Careful now, Swan. My old vulture saved my skin more times than
Oh,
I
it didn't show us the first part of the conversation. Sad.
Classic piece of engineering like that.
Classy. Oh, because you call that. Of course, most folks don't like a bike that doesn't explode on them when they're... This is like someone talking about how his Pinto is a classic car. Yeah, the missions with the 87 beater Pinto had so many problems. That's funny. It's so funny. It's like, the Pinto is such a classic car, bro. Pinto is such a classic car, bro. It's so classic. Yet you're more worried about anyone who's actually driven a Pinto is more worried about puking out the train and the engine and everything. But in any case, let's get some much needed upgrades here. And if you start hearing the baby cooing or the baby noises, this is my daughter. I'm not going to tell you her real name because it's pretty unique. Vehicles. See, I will think about this upgrade in a minute, but I actually want the base upgrades more than I want the... Actually, let's do that. If I've got enough to do it, might as well. Why would I get the replenishable magazine? Oh, I should have done the siege tank. Oh well. Next time. But why would I... ooh, spider mines. But why would I get the replenishable magazines? Spider mines do a nice bit of damage, and all I need is one vulture to build mines here, folks. But if you guys hear the baby noises, just call her... This is my daughter. I call her Tufsy for short here. And she just... she needs Dad right now. She woke up from her little nap, and now she's just being... And now she's just being her regular self. Isn't that right, sweetie? Ho 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 ho. Let's see. What's Tychus got to say?
I used to think Minx be a force for change. Fought alongside him right up until Tarsonis.
Well,
that's where he crossed the line.
Someone who wants to be a petty dictator claims to be a liberator.
Kerrigan there to die.
You know, that stuff does happen,
just as rotten as the
folks.
Confederacy ever was.
Damn. You sure know how to pick your friends, Jimmy.
The heck? What is this streaming on exactly? Is this streaming on... No, it's streaming on the right thing. Kind of weird, though. But I also can't see the chat. Give me a quick second here, folks. I need to see what's going on. It doesn't look like anything really here, but alright, let's keep things going.
Emperor, much has been written in regards to the tragic fall of Tarsonis. Toloski's investigative documentary, Imperial Dawn, even claims that you brought down the Confederate system by assuring Tarsonis' fall.
I've heard these conspiracy theories.
It's not a conspiracy theory, it's the truth. You destroyed...
No force in the universe could have stopped their onslaught. It was a very terrible day.
It's not a conspiracy theory, it's the truth here, folks.
Convenience of the aliens and the corrupt government that you yourself spent a lifetime trying to overthrow.
As a matter of fact,
millions died that day, and you
sacrificed the whole planet of Terrans so that way he could build his government, so he could build his dominion.
But never with the object of personal gain.
Yeah, but there's just one problem. Your government is about as corrupt as the old government is, as it was.
Survival as a species.
Striking words from the Emperor himself. Up next, Servings allergic to lemon juice, old wives' tale, or new super weapon in the fight for humanity.
You're a thirsty little baby girl. I know. Calm down. But... let's see, Armory, Bridge, Laboratory, let's go to the bridge. And, Matt.
If Mirahan calls, I'm...
If Mirahan calls, I'm just busy. Bruh, you gotta talk to her at some point. Alright, she's a little fussy, and she says, Dad, I'm thirsty. Just hold on a second, folks. Let's do Tandor.
Thank the stars you've come. You had a sterling reputation as a marshal many years ago, and I know you'll do your best to help us.
Yeah, well, that was all a long time ago, Doctor. Looks like you got one heck of a Zerg problem here. Where do you need us?
We're ready to evacuate, but none of the teams I sent to purge the Foundation data cores have reported back. I need you to destroy those cores before the Queen of
sorry
Blades
about
finds
that,
them and
folks.
discovers the coordinates of the remaining artifacts.
Miss Tufsy was a little needy, but that's all. That's all. What's going on here?
Class 12 psi pattern detected. Recommend extreme caution.
Kerrigan.
Yeah, that's bad.
Right then, Doc. Our timetable's shorter than we thought. We gotta move.
Oh yeah, now we gotta deal with Sarah Kerrigan. Or as Jim calls her, Kerrigan. Not exactly the kind of fun opponent you would want to take on either when you think about it, folks. Because she is dangerous. Well, dangerous doesn't even begin to make the word here.
Go ahead. Analysis of the Queen of Blades search pattern complete. Calculating her ETA to the closest data core now.
You can't leave well enough alone, can you, Jim?
Tech lab.
It was stupid of you to come here.
I don't plan on staying long, darling. But I'll be damned before I let you get hold of those artifacts.
Gotta be careful there, Jimmy.
Bad news?
Although, I always kind of wondered when it comes down to it,
I'm giving you control of
Sarah
our medevacs,
Kerrigan, if
you can use
the
them to
infested
transport your men
Kerrigan,
around the city and avoid most of the Zeg.
Oh, what's the word I'm looking for here? I kind of wonder if Sarah Kerrigan even remembers being human at this point. I mean, it's hard to say, really, but you never know.
The raiders are here. We're saved.
What are these? Not Marines. Oh, these are the mercenary war pigs. Gotcha. Okay.
By the numbers. Who wants some?
Smooth.
Talk to me.
Medevacs over
here. Up on the roof.
Oh, goody. Let's go get them. It's funny in the online multiplayer. It's actually a lot. The medevacs are a lot nicer. They actually have an over booster kind of thing. Works out really nicely, if you ask me. Oh wait, deploy.
Here's your stop.
Deploy. There we go. That's something that needs to be destroyed first.
This better be good.
Juice up, boys. Get rid of that darn thing. Okay.
What's going on?
Start
Move it.
building.
Big job, huh? Huh? Go ahead.
This is kind of the reason why I chose more to do the... I prefer to drop in the... I prefer the supply depots that I can just call down instead of sending a bunch to build. Instead of building a bunch of supply depots, but I'm liking this vest paint efficiency. It works really, really nicely.
It's one down.
Let's get out of there.
Of course. The Moebius data cores. You won't get the rest of them.
Again. Sure.
Oh, hell. At least she doesn't know where to find the other cores. We better get
Let's
to the
drop
next one
off.
fast.
Ugh, takes forever and ever and ever to drop off. Ugh, come on. Oh, don't tell me the game just crashed.
On my way.
Taking a minute to load that checkpoint, to save that checkpoint. That sucks.
Big job. Go ahead. What's going on? Huh?
Brutalisk. Stedman wanted one of those things to research. Reckon we can oblige him.
I think I'll show people why I like this science vessel.
Been waiting on you.
Right, baby. I'm kidding. But in any case, let's move on to our second subject here, folks. And today's second subject here... Oh, just touching the mouse pad. But our second subject for today's live stream isn't necessarily... Well, is a subject that I hold a little bit more near and dear to my heart than other things, and that subject, straightforward, is what they've been doing to cartoons in the last few years. Now, people might sit here and say, what do you mean? Cartoons are for little kids. Well, cartoons are for people who enjoy them. Enough said. But that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about how... What the heck? Oh. Okay, that's not what I want to do. What the heck? Okay, there we go. But what I'm talking about here, folks, is what they've done to cartoons in the most recent years. Now, when I say what they've done to cartoons in the most recent years, I mean that not just the art, but the subject matter of cartoons is just terrible. Now, some people might sit there and say, what do you mean? They're better than ever. They're more diverse. That's not what I'm talking about here, folks. I'm talking about how the scripting of cartoons has gone downhill, how cartoons are way less funny. Now, some people might sit there and say, they're not less funny. Yes, they are. I can't even turn on what you would consider a modern cartoon. I can't even bring myself to enjoy the cartoon show. I think the last time I turned on a cartoon show that I actually found myself enjoying was...
In the rear with the gear.
Oh, jeez. What was the last cartoon that I can think of off the top of my head that I truly enjoyed?
SCV ready.
Yes, you miss Mama, sweetie. Dad knows. Yes, Dad knows you miss Mama. Yes, Mama. But the last cartoon I think that I actually turned on and enjoyed that was actually the most recent thing was Steven Universe. Now, some might sit here and say, oh, that's because that show was made by Rebecca Sugar and she had a heavy influence from anime. Now, there is a little bit of truth to that I did enjoy Rebecca Sugar's Steven Universe because there is a certain amount of heavy anime influence on that show. I'm not going to deny that. There is some truth to that. But that was the last modern cartoon, aside from Adventure Time, that was actually decently good. Some might sit there and say, how can you say that? There's the newer shows are
now
good.
What?
Name
Confirmed.
one that's done well enough that it survived. The only one that's done well enough that it's survived, to my knowledge, is Craig of the Creek. Yes, sweetie, Dad's talking. Oh, looks like I have a co-host today, folks. I apologize in advance. I would have said something sooner, but oh well. You can only make do with what aspects of life give you.
We hear you.
But when I sit here and think of a cartoon that I sit down and I can watch with my kids and enjoy, you know, it's sad for me, really, because I turn on a television show and the thing that gets me is that at this point, I would rather watch cartoons that were made in the... Oops, that's not where I want it. At least I think that's where I wanted it. The last cartoon that I turned on and more basically enjoyed was Steven Universe, that was made modernly, and Adventure Time, because there were the actual stories for that as well. What, sweetie? Do you agree with Dada? Do you agree with Dada? No. Oh yes, is this Dada's phone? Is this Dada's phone? Yeah. She's a little bit of a technology kid. Yes. But yes, that. Yes, that, sweetie, that. But I digress. Hey. You calm down, little girl.
Mineral field depleted.
Show me angry. Show me the angry baby. Show me the angry baby. There we go. There's the angry baby. I'm kidding, folks. She's not angry. She's just a baby. But in any case, I digress.
What's going on?
That modern cartoons have not been that great.
Go ahead.
Now, is there some truth that, you know, that it's more of the writers and the artists' fault? Yeah. But you also have to understand, most of these people get educated at a university and that they have more or less... Yes, dad. Zara? Miss Topsy, I shouldn't say your real name. No, I shouldn't.
Explorer reporting.
Explorer reporting. Oops. No, that's not what I wanted to do. I want you to move over here.
Greetings, Commander.
I have a mission for you two when the time comes. I need a siege tank here.
What's our target?
And a siege tank here. Yes, you can execute that order. Yes, the comforting thunder of the big guns. Oh, fine, here, take it.
Mineral field depleted.
Such a spoiled little girl, aren't you? But your dad does spoil little girl.
Base is under attack.
Really bad place for that. Oh well. Oh well. But in any case... But... Oh, jeez, I lost my train of thought.
Mineral
No,
field depleted.
I don't need that. I need that.
What's
And
going on?
I need the fusion core.
Yeah.
Then,
Big job, huh?
and this thing. Oh, I need to put
Move
turret
it.
here. Probably have to put another turret up too. But when I sit here and talk about how cartoons have denigrated, I mean that such a messy little girl, aren't you, sweetie? But when I sit here and talk about Sarah, Topsy, I gotta remember to stop saying your name.
Greetings, Commander.
Yes. But in any case, folks, when I sit here and say that, you know, that was the last cartoon I enjoyed and that I would rather watch cartoons that were made in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s, I mean, it's really, really sad to say this, but a lot of, you know, today's cartoons just don't match up to the quality that I grew up with. Now, some people might sit there and say, what'd you grow up with? Well, let me put it to you this way. SpongeBob premiered when I was a kid. When I was a little boy of no older than 7 was when SpongeBob SquarePants' first episode was aired on Nickelodeon. And, you know, some people might sit there and say, dude, you're old. Yeah, I feel it. Trust me, I also have kids too. I feel it even more. But it's an obvious tale that the newer writers for cartoons who are coming out of colleges and artists who are coming out, I wouldn't say they're not doing their due diligence here, folks. I would sit here and argue that they've fallen into believing a certain, not aesthetic, a certain thought pattern of this is okay. This is acceptable. And my general answer to that isn't so much that, darn it, I just lost a science lesson.
Base is under attack.
Is not so much that they've lost the plot. No. The thing that I'm saying is that when I go to the movies, when I turn on television, I want to be entertained. Yes, think of I don't think it was Spartacus, but there was some show out there that said, "Are you not entertained?"
Dad.
And when I go to a movie, turn on a television show, whatever, I want to be entertained. It's why I pay for this said service. If I'm not entertained, I'm not happy. Now, some might sit here and say, well, you've said in other videos, you can't always get what you want. And I will agree with that. But I will also sit here and say,
mineral field depleted.
I will also sit here and say that on top of that, that if my paychecks go to paying for streaming services or whatever I use, Comcast, Warner Cable got absorbed.
Additional supply.
Then, I expect a return. I expect the services that I pay for, the services that I get to come into return.
Mineral field depleted.
Yes, mama, sweetheart. Mama. It's okay, sweetie. It's okay.
Receiving headquarters.
Uh-oh, I've spent way too long running my mouth and not doing enough work.
In the rear with the gear. We hear you. What's going on?
I'm pushing this pretty close here, folks. Sorry about that. I was too busy flapping my gap and worrying about the little thing that I have to take care of instead of paying attention to my timer on the map. That's a bit of a problem I need to rectify. Let's see. I don't got much choice here, but I gotta use. I'm gonna have to deliver a strike for it.
Make an effort, drop it off.
Not how I like to do this. Come on.
Hey, over here!
Don't worry. Wait, where are you?
Understood. Somebody, get me out of this mess.
Hey, man! Could use some help down here!
That's why I like the Hercules better.
Upgrade complete.
Oh, great. I'm going to have to reload my checkpoint here because I was too busy not paying attention to things. Great.
Sir, Kerrigan's close to finding a data core. It's
And
vital
there's
that you
nothing
destroy
I
the
can
core
do. I don't
before
have
she
the
gets
troop
to it.
forces to do anything about it. And I forgot to scout out the areas to where I lost both my medics and everything. I'm going to have to reload my checkpoint here. Oh well, I'm human. What do you expect? Yeah, Okay. So... Oh,
Life flight's here.
Back here. Wonderful.
Not enough minerals.
Brutalisk. Stedman wanted one of those things to research.
Here, sweetie.
Reckon we can oblige him.
In the rear with the SCV ready.
Okay, let's make less mistakes this time, shall I?
Not enough minerals.
Move it.
Give me a quick second, folks. I've got to deal with a fussy child for a minute. She wants to watch something on my phone, and I'm going to have to oblige her. So give me a quick second. Go to the bathroom. Do whatever you need to. Alright, sorry about that, folks. I got her. She was getting a little fussy and she needed some entertainment. Let's just say that.
Sir, you better do something about that Nidus worm before our base gets overrun.
I just had to give her some entertainment so I could focus a bit better on the mission, because I really goofed up by not paying attention to my time. I was like, oh, I've got time to blow, and it was not a good thing that I did, that I basically failed the mission. And of course, because I was just like, okay, let's do this quick and dirty, I forgot I needed to maneuver my units around to avoid certain threats, and instead of dropping off my troops, I lost all my troops.
In the rear with the gear. Huh? Go ahead. Yes, what's going on?
Add-on complete.
Life flight's here.
Let's move this over, and then when those are done, I'll
SCV ready.
get my defenses up. Again, I apologize for that, folks. I was a bit too busy paying attention to my daughter and not focusing on the stream. I apologize in advance. But I'm going to do my best to try and get through this. But anyway, back on the topic here. You know, these were the last cartoon shows that I actually found myself watching and enjoying. And I think it's sad that I can watch something like the Flintstones here, and I find that more appropriate content for children than what's on in some shows. Now, some might sit here and say Craig of the Creek is appropriate. Yeah, it is. Not gonna deny that Craig of the Creek is an age-appropriate show. Not gonna deny that at all. It's actually very age-appropriate for kids. Now, some might sit there and say Steven Universe was, if you're a bit more on the conservative side of things, that Steven Universe was slightly less appropriate because they deal with homosexual themes, you could sit here and say. And my answer to that is that, you know, for all intents and purposes, I don't believe that. What do you mean you don't believe that? My answer to that is straightforward and simple. In the characters of Steven Universe, in Garment, that they the characters that they love to point out are more LGBT friendly, which is Garnet. Well, for one, the aliens in Steven Universe, they're basically living gems. That's the best way to phrase this. They're a living version
Base is
in
under
a. They're a living version of a gem, I guess you could sit here and say, and they're the living version of that.
It's your dime.
What the heck?
Go ahead.
And because they're the living version of that, does not translate to certain things. Now, do they think, feel, and all the above? Yes, they do. And you know what? Props. It's an excellent It's an excellent idea with a creative universe. But what I'm talking about here is that I can't even. They've basically cut down on all the shows that I grew up watching and enjoying. I mean, I can't even turn on a show and watch Pepe Le Pew go and try and love on a cat that looks like a skunk. And, you know, it always involves paint or shoe polish that landed on the cat. And Pepe Le Pew is a lover at heart. And he loves his fine ladies. No, I don't mean that. But I digress. The problem is that they denigrated what cartoons are able to do. Well, they haven't. Okay, let me put this in a way everybody will understand. I can't, quote unquote here, I cannot turn on an old Hanna-Barbera cartoon like Bugs Bunny or Daffy Duck and enjoy the slapstick comedy of the show. It's not comedy. It's called slapstick comedy. It's meant to be silly. It's meant to be this way. Oh, it's meant to be homophobic and misogynistic and racist? Okay. If the rivalry between a duck and a rabbit are racist, I would love to see that explained. Or the fact that Elmer Fudd is portrayed as that hunter who is basically, well, not useless per se, but he can't hit the bright side of a barn as someone who's just incompetent. He's just a hunter who is just literally that incompetent. You know, that doesn't scream racism to me. Now, I won't deny that portrayals of other human ethnicities is a bit of a problem. Like when they portray Native Americans, okay, there's a bit of leeway there because they mostly portray Plains Indians, well, the plain natives, and not coastal natives, because all natives were dressed differently and acted differently.
Yeah, whatever.
Now, some might sit there and say that, how do you know that? And the answer is simple. I've been to university and I took a class about Native American cultures. And, the thing that's really sad in a lot of these cases when it comes to this is that they don't really do a good job of showing different Native American cultures. Now, some might sit there and say, what do you mean? Well, I said earlier, a lot of what they describe, a lot of what you see in TV shows are the Plains Native Americans, natives that lived on the Great Plains. That's what you see more or less because they were popular in the movie depictions. And why were they popular in the movie depictions? Because a lot of the headbands that they wore were meant to hold on to the wigs that certain actors were wearing. So it kind of boils down to, I would appreciate more authenticity in the works, but I'm probably never going to get that. And hell, people are probably going to give me flack for me just sitting here and defending these cartoons. And my answer is that there's defending the cartoons, and then there's just trying to enjoy the cartoons. I have Matt Mega Level Tantrum here to deal with, folks. I will be with you in just a minute. Looks like my co-host is back, folks. She's not necessarily worse for wear, but she's a little happier now that Dada has her.
Armed and ready.
But I digress. I don't agree with some of the portrayals, but the thing that I dislike the most,
mineral field depleted,
in most cases here, is the fact that, besides the fact of inaccurate descriptions here, the other thing that I don't like is that we can't even enjoy the silliness of these cartoons. And when I say we can't even enjoy the silliness anymore, yes, Tufsy, so silly.
You're even more desperate than I thought.
You can't even enjoy these shows. I mean, I grew up watching, Where's Scooby-Doo, Where Are You, and other things.
Mineral field.
And you can't even, and even some people don't like these shows, or that they're currently in the works of recasting and other things. And, I don't approve of that at all. Because as written, I prefer my cartoon characters as written. Here, enjoy. And they're just changing everything to please these woke people. And, my response to that is why are you trying to appease a group of people who will never be appeased? What you can and will do will never be enough for these people. Now, some people might sit there and say, if we give them what they want, they'll eventually stop. And the answer to that is nothing we do will ever be enough to make these people stop. Now, some might sit here and say, you know, I know some of these people and they do have fair points. Okay, sure. There are some fair points that they make in certain regards, but it is not fair to sit there and lambast a bunch of... Sweetie... lambast a bunch of people for having differing opinions, regardless of what somebody else believes or not. That is not all right, in my opinion. And
mineral field depleted.
That's not
Mineral
right,
field
in my
depleted.
opinion, at all. Well, of course, then this is going to be the part where I'm just a racist, blah, 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 blah. And my answer to that is I'm no racist. I have no use for those who are racist in my life. But I will draw the line in saying that if you act a certain way and expect people to kowtow to you, don't expect everybody to do it. Because the biggest problem with being human is that we are human. And everybody who has beliefs about X, Y, and Z and Z is that you're not going to get everybody to believe everything that you do. Now, some might sit there and say, well, they better get in line or we're going to shut them down. And it's just like, you're no better than those who have shut people down in the past. No better, no difference. Yes, we are. There's a difference. And the answer is, no, you're not. There is no difference. But that's off topic here. But getting back to the whole cartoon thing,
We couldn't reach the data cores. Help us out.
The whole thing I'm talking about is that I can't even is that everyone thinks all the shows that... Sweetie, please settle. Hold on, folks, we're having another tantrum. Anyway, but I digress, folks. I can't even enjoy TV shows that I grew up watching anymore because they're racist, they're sexist, they're homophobic, they're transphobic. And it's like,
mineral field depleted.
It's a dang cartoon about situations that will more than likely never happen. That will more than likely never happen in real life. And if it ever does happen in real life, holy cow, how did that happen, you know?
Let's roll.
I've seen through your Dr. Naru's pathetic charade. I know what the artifacts really are. and they will be mine.
Whatever they are, Kerrigan, I sure as hell ain't letting you have them.
That Queen of Blades really is quite a nuisance, isn't she?
But
Been waiting on you. Will do. Of course. That's fine.
what do you do when you have kids who are just never happy, folks? You learn to roll with the punches.
Aye, aye, sir.
I'll get her in just a second after I get this cleaned out.
Mineral field depleted.
See, that's full, so let's fill up.
Don't get your knickers in a bunch.
Don't get your knickers in a bunch.
Sir, another Nidus worm has emerged close to our base.
I am unconcerned, but since you insist,
Easy.
drop off.
Transmit orders. We have you on visual. Receiving headquarters.
Move out of range.
Excellent. Affirmative, sir.
Time to get my rads on, folks.
I'm in a pickle.
Yeah, I got your pickle here. Okay, let's move these over.
You gonna give me orders?
Where are my
This better be good.
non-standard units? Might as well keep them all with me, except for the Goliath and the extra Marauders. Why? They take up too much room, and I need rooms for medics.
You rang? Just relax. Ooh, sounds serious.
Been waiting on you.
Let's lock and load, ladies.
Roger that.
Move it, come on.
Oh, great. Is my science vessel gone, or am I gonna have to worry about that? Nah, Brutalisk is almost gone.
Greetings,
make sure I
Command.
get that
Mineral
Brutalisk
field depleted.
before.
Yeah?
You make sure I get the Brutalisk gone before I end this mission.
Transmit orders.
Don't get your knickers in a
That's it.
bunch.
Ooh, guns. But in any case, alive inside.
Roger.
Ooh, we are alive inside.
Hey, over here. Marines, we are leaving.
Heck yeah, we
Hey,
are.
Raiders, come pick us up. The Raiders are here. We're saved. Ready.
Easy.
Deploy.
Okay.
Mineral field depleted.
Great. I need another science. Oops. I need another science vessel real quick.
Greetings, Command.
And you have to when you try to kill something with radiation, it takes forever in StarCraft games.
Let's roll.
Looks like I
Affirmative, sir.
have others coming.
Commencing.
So let's take.
Excellent.
Well, I was hoping to take the roundabout way,
Affirmative, sir.
but here we go again.
Let's roll. Affirmative, sir.
Some small miracles do exist. We get repaired.
Let's roll.
Where is she?
You gonna give me orders?
Let's make sure that there aren't any other survivors left real quick. Let's make sure I got them all.
Explorer reporting.
Oh, looks like I got everybody again.
Why not?
Let's get the killing going.
Transmit orders.
We could use some help here.
We have you on vision. Greetings, Command.
Alright, well, seeing as I'm trying to salvage a situation here, let's finish up this mission, shall we? But I'm just saying here, folks, that if there are cartoon shows on nowadays that I don't approve of for my kids, and I find cartoons like Tom and Jerry, Popeye the Sailor Man, and I'm not the only one amongst my own generation who thinks that, mind you. Popeye the Sailor Man, the older Scooby-Doo cartoons, and other things. If I'm not the only one who sits there and finds that those cartoons were more appropriate for kids than modern kid shows, I think that's a big problem. Now, people are more than free to disagree with me on this basis. I don't pretend to sit here to tell people what to do at all, nor will I ever sit here and say that I think I know better. And nor am I saying I know better here. But what I am saying here is that I think that older cartoons were better and more kid-friendly because they didn't have all the woke stuff in it either. Or the whole or we have to include all the diversity and inclusion in it. Not that I don't think a little bit diversity in characters isn't a bad idea, in short, or at all. But I do think that in the grand scheme
fears their
terms
power,
of things,
just as she fears the Xel'Naga who created them. The Xel'Naga created both the Protoss and the Zerg, Commander. They were the gods of their time.
but I do think that for our own kids' sake, that we are better off with standards of older cartoons than we are with. We are better off with the concept of the older cartoons than the newer ones. Ooh, what's this? Oh, welcome to New Gettysburg. It's cinematic time. Let's enjoy the show. I'll stop talking now. It's cinematic time.
This is Kerrigan. We've neutralized the Protoss, but there's a wave of Zerg advancing on this position. We need immediate evac.
Uh-oh.
Relay that order.
It's funny. This is actually the... Never mind. I'll explain later.
All ships prepare to move away from Tarsonis on my mark.
Careful, sweet. You're gonna fall. Hey. It's okay. She's not a happy camper right now, folks, and I'm not sure why.
It's done. Helmsman, signal the fleet and take us out of orbit. Now.
Commander. Jim? What the hell's going on up there?
When you realize that death is before you, you don't have enough ammo, yay, and betrayal is here. That's pretty harrowing feeling there when you think about it. That's a pretty harrowing thing when you think about it. I mean, the only good thing is that when the Zerg captured her, they didn't kill her, but then again, I wouldn't really call that. Is that wild turkey? Oh, that. Nope, it's whiskey. It's like single malt.
I've been cleaning up after you a lot lately.
Leave it alone, Matt.
Oh.
Same
Depression, PTSD.
Leave it alone.
Does terrible things to good
wasn't your
people.
fault. Which part? She got left behind? Or she murdered 8 billion people?
Same old bullshit. You ain't gonna listen.
It is sad. Jim blames himself more than he should. It's sad.
Do you even see what you're becoming?
You are who we choose to be, Matt.
When you figure it out, let us know. We're waiting on you.
But, yeah, depression, alcoholism, more than likely PTSD and other things contribute to certain people's problems, issues, depressions, however you want to phrase that. 8 hours later. Fun. Alright, well, I'm just going to wrap up what I was saying here, and then I'm just going to drop it. But in any case, folks...
What the hell was I doing?
But in any case, folks, the comedy of cartoons is dying. And it's sad. And, you know, there are those who sit there saying, no, it's being reinvented. No, it's dying. And I hate that. I really do, because I grew up as a kid enjoying cartoons. But in any case, if you guys like what I'm doing, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. This will be my last live stream until this will be my last live stream until I do the char missions. I'm going to do my regular videos as posted. But if you like what I do, sorry about Tufsy. You know how children who are under 2 are. I apologize again. But again, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the topics. I know at the very end I was more distracted than I should have been, but oh well. But again, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Bang the bell. And I will see you guys